Greek election yesterday was not a total disaster. It wasn't the greatest thing in the world, but it wasn't a disaster. But the markets did not even get time to catch their breath before a new concern crept up this morning. It didn't really creep up. It's Spain. And why are we talking about Spain? Because their bond yields are creeping up. The Spanish 10-year is over 7%. Spain is back on the very, very front of the front burner of the European crisis. Why? What's going on? We have Katie Martin with us in London. Okay, Katie, so we know about the bad bank loan report. We know about that. We know Spanish 10 years are over 7%. I want to get right to the heart of it with you. There was a report yesterday from the IIF that said there is not enough money to handle a Spanish bailout. How close is Spain to needing a bailout, and what happens when that happens?
That's the big question. There is a very big suspicion that there are not enough pennies in the coffers to bail out Spain, and that's obviously the big concern. This has really been boiling up ever since we had the agreement on the bank recapitalisation plan, which everyone is scratching their heads over and thinking, how on earth does this not end up on the sovereign balance sheet? And if anything, the fact that we've had the recapitalisation plan last week actually brings forward the notion that we might need some support for the sovereign. So things are looking very ugly today. Indeed, as you mentioned, Spanish 10-year yields have gone over 7%. They haven't just gone over 7%, they've gone way over 7%. Right. 7.23 was the high for the day. This is a very messy situation indeed. You can argue over whether really the 7% number really matters, but nonetheless, it's a psychological line in the sand, and it's not looking good.
Right. Well, that was one of my questions to you. We know that, I believe it was for Greece and Ireland, probably Portugal too, it was when their 10-year yields were closer to 8% that they were really shut out of the markets. But 2 weeks ago, the Spaniards were complaining at 6.5% that they were being shut out of the markets, right?
Yeah, so, by that logic, they're even more shut out today. And something that's worth keeping an eye on is that the short-term yields are also moving higher. So it's not just the 10 years. And actually, there's a school of thought that it's the shorter-term sort of 2-year maturity bracket that you should be looking at to judge whether it can keep rolling over its finances. And so that's also looking a bit messy. The cost of insuring against a default on Spanish government debt also hit a record high today. And if you recall, rising or widening CDS levels are also a very sort of strong indicator of market nerves. This was supposed to be Greece's big day in the sun. Everyone was supposed to be focusing on the Greek elections, but literally I hadn't even had my second cup of tea of the day and already everyone was worrying about Spain.
Right. Now, have we heard anything from officialdom? Has anyone said anything about what's going on in the Spanish market today?
No, there hasn't really been much news. I mean, the most notable piece of news from Spain was data showing that non-performing loans in the country were up at the highest level in 18 years in April. So, I mean, that's obviously the crux of it. It's the banks. It's the fact that they went far too big into the property market and it's all come crashing down around their ears. But there really hasn't been much news flow from Spain today. It's just a sentiment thing, and that's one of the things that makes it so difficult to put a stop to it. It's just when the market gets the bit between its teeth, as it has done today, it's really difficult to turn it around.
Right. Okay. Before we go here, I just want to ask you one last thing. Usually in this European sovereign debt crisis, we've had one country at a time has been the focus. Now you have at least two, and really three, because Italy's in there also. I mean, are we in a new phase of this crisis where you are looking at all the different pieces coming together at the same time?
It certainly feels like it. I mean, like I was saying with the Spanish bank recapitalisation plan, everything that the policymakers seem to be coming up with now in a sort of, well-meaning efforts to solve the crisis or alleviate it just seem to be making it worse. And we seem to be really reaching the point now where we are out of options, and there are growing calls for the ECB to do something. It's kind of, do something, anything. But exactly what and exactly how that would get the okay from all the different pockets of Europe is really difficult to see. So steps forward, your guess is as good as mine.